And in Germany, the record is out of 10, one person dies, because they're more expert in technology. And so there's a story there. Oh, I want to read you the message. Somebody said, our Prana Govinda Prabhu, sannyas candidate from Florida, was with His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami for the last 1 hour in hospital. Somehow the hospital management allowed him. He was chanting various prayers from Brahma Samhita Sannyas Mantra for Maharaj. Hope this news will give you pleasure, and pleasure in a lot of devotees' hearts. Your servant Prem Prakash Das. So it's a very consoling message that Prabhupada, Bhakti Charu Swami was not alone. And here I want to tell you a story what I have, my personal experience with ventilators. I have not been on a ventilator, but a good friend of mine who was a Sankirtan devotee in Holland, Dr. Steve, he saw on Sankirtan how 2 robbers broke, smashed the window and tried to get, and the owner came from inside. So owner opened the door, he came inside, they beat the owner. And this devotee, Dr. Steve, just was there. And he ran inside and he grabbed this man. And the other man took his gun and shot him 2 times in the belly. And he was immediately put on a ventilator in the hospital. Now, I was friends with him. We always shared, and we still have friendship. So I went 2 times. And every time I asked him, I said, Steve, can you hear me? Why don't you move your thumb that you hear me? No motion. And so I just talked with him. I said, you may not be able to do anything for me with your body, but you may be hearing. And so I spoke to him that he has done a great sacrifice on Sankirtan, being shot for the sake of somebody else. And there was no reaction on his body whatsoever, both times. Then he came out later, I met him later again, and he told me, I wanted to thank you. He said, on the ventilator, I could not move my body because I had no feeling for my body. It's a very strong, he's detached from his body, he couldn't feel any pain. He said, but I heard every single word you said. Every single word. So coming back to Bhakti Charu Swami, that Krishna arranged it that in the last hour he heard everything. And also, previously devotees visited him when he was on the ventilator. He could hear everything. It's not that Krishna shut somebody just down into ignorance. Krishna arranged it that he would hear and take the appreciations of the devotees and the well-wishing of the devotees. It's a wonderful thing to think about, you know, that he was hearing up to the end. And he departed, which was an incredible shock to me. Because in the last 5 days, I happened to be in the room when Prabhupada was there, every day, minimum 6-7 hours. And I saw that it was Bhakti Charu Swami who came and went, and came and went. He went back and forth, he was cooking for Prabhupada. Prabhupada was actually, he was the only person that Prabhupada took medicines from, I was told, at that time, because he knew Bhakti Charu Swami very deeply. And he was worried. I heard himself saying that he was worried that something may happen to him, funny. And so Bhakti Charu Swami always served Prabhupada. He was the one. In fact, He was the one that gave Prabhupada the last water. And Prabhupada was at the end of his life. Two stories. One story is that Bhakti Charu Swami gave Prabhupada medicine. And Prabhupada took the medicine, and then he said, now did you close the bottle? Because Prabhupada was a medical man, he knows you take a pill, immediately close the bottle, because you may knock over that bottle if it's open. So he said, did you close the bottle? And Bhakti Charu Swami said, oh no, I forgot. And then Prabhupada said, that is your disease. He said, all of you, this is your disease, all of you. He said, you know how to open bottles, but you don't know how to close them. You start so many new things, but you do not see the consequences. I heard it myself, I was shocked how Prabhupada, out of such a small little thing, could expound the whole philosophy, because we don't see the consequences. Look at the environment, the earth is poisoned, the food is poisoned, the rivers are poisoned, the ocean, the air, everything is poisoned because simply of this act of opening bottle and not knowing how to close it. That's a simple explanation. Now then Prabhupada said, you know how to live, but you don't know how to die. And I have to show you. And this is how Prabhupada got the idea that Yaduba should film his departure. There was a film made based on this very sentence. You know how to live, you don't know how to die, and therefore I have to show you. So it's a wonderful sequence. From the bottle, you know how to open bottles, you don't know how to close them, you know how to live, but you don't know how to die. And therefore I have to show you. It's a wonderful sequence. I was very happy to hear this, being right there. Bhakti Charu Swami was there as well, to hear that message. Then, just before Prabhupada left, one of the last things he said was, everything moving and non-moving, there's nothing but Krishna. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. It took about 5 minutes to say that. But everybody was listening. You know, it was one of the last days. Prabhupada was already, I remember he was already heaving and struggling with breathing when he stopped for one moment, and his hand went up like this, completely peaceful. No trembling, no, my hand is trembling. Prabhupada's hand was not trembling. Very peaceful. And he said, everything, it was like the universe was speaking, or something from the Bible, you know, some God on the mountain of Sinai or something. He said, everything moving and non-moving, there's nothing but Krishna. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. Then after some time, we saw that Prabhupada was leaving. Anybody who has seen somebody die, can you lift up your hands? Yes. Anybody who has seen, you have to see it once. I saw it with my brother, I saw it with my father, I've seen enough. That you can understand when it comes close. You can hear the struggle. Good, it is called in Sanskrit literature. And so we saw it coming, and Bhakti Charu Swami, Prabhupada had his mouth open, and Bhakti Charu Swami gave him water. It was not you, it was not me, it was not such and such Maharaj, it was Bhakti Charu Swami. He gave him the water. And immediately after that, minutes later, Prabhupada left the planet. And it was awesome. We all cried. It was impossible not to cry. I saw Trayadvaita Swami crying. I saw about 60 people in the room. Everybody was crying. It was heartbreaking, that situation. But at the same time, Prabhupada told him where he would go. There's everything moving, there's nothing but Krishna. This consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So where do you go if you're in this consciousness? You go to Krishna. It's very clear. Now somebody wrote me yesterday that he thinks Bhakti Charu Swami went to the spiritual world. Personally, I don't believe that, for one reason. That Prabhupada told us when somebody achieves the mercy of Krishna at the time of death, he will take birth in a universe and participates in Krishna's pastimes. That's what Prabhupada said. And he becomes trained in Krishna consciousness. That's what Prabhupada told us. So that's where he went. He's associating with Krishna right now. Krishna arranged that he could hear what the devotees were saying or singing at the last time, in the last day of his life or the last hour of his life, and he left gloriously. There are not many people like Bhakti True Swami, like Prabhupada said, he was more advanced than most of us, even after 30 years or 40 years of Krishna consciousness. He was more advanced at birth. He was very special, he was very kind, he was very understanding, he was a very good listener, and I'm so happy that somehow or other I could have his association, first in Germany, then in Ireland, and then particularly in the last days of Srila Prabhupada. Bhakti True Maharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premananda Haribol.
Thank you very much. Next we're going to hear from Vishaka Mataji. I wanted to take a few minutes maybe, since he spoke about the ventilator. It's not about ventilators, but an induced coma. And so many things are going around. I read things, I hear devotees have approached me about Maharaj's leaving. I was a year ago, I was in Hawaii, one of my godbrothers, he was also in the hospital. He had a brain aneurysm. Anyway, from the time he went into the hospital, he only lasted 4 days, 5 days, and they put him in an induced coma. We hear this with Maharaj, induced coma. He had also been put into an induced coma. And the day before he left, in the evening, I was sitting with him because he was lying in the bed. Had drilled into his brain. He was in a coma. And his son was living in the temple. His son was 20 years old. He had just come from South America, so he was staying with Spatantra was his name. He was the head pujari. So he's in the hospital. He's in an induced coma, which means they put him in the coma. And it was evident that he wasn't going to last more than another 24 hours. And I started talking to him in this coma, so-called coma state. And of course he was hooked up to all the machines. So it showed his blood pressure, his heart beat, all these things were there. And I started talking to him about it was okay for him to leave. I told him his son would be taken care of. And immediately I saw a spike in all of these different registers. His pulse went up, his heart rate went up, everything went up. But I could understand, he heard me. It wasn't that he was unconscious. He was in this induced coma. But the consciousness was there. So I began speaking more and more. I talked to him for over half an hour, just telling him it was okay to go. His son was okay, he was okay. He was Panchatattva circle. So I just thought of it in relationship to Bhakti True Maharaj. Whatever he was on ventilator, so-called induced coma, all these things. Prabhupada was there chanting to him. Everything was going on. And he was certainly hearing all of it. It wasn't that there's no unconsciousness is not there. Consciousness is always there. So I just wanted to make that point. He wasn't ever alone, Maharaj. And certainly, if I get an opportunity, I'll speak a little more to say how everything happens perfectly according to Krishna's plan. His going when he went, that's when he was supposed to go. If we learn anything in Krishna consciousness, it's that Krishna is doing everything. You say, not a blade of grass moves. What to speak of somebody like Bhakti True Maharaj from the very beginning? Prabhupada just took him right in, like his son. So he was certainly taken care of through his whole life. Whenever I saw Maharaj, all he did was talk about Prabhupada. Every time we go in his room, he would start telling us stories when he was with Prabhupada. That that first year of his life in Krishna consciousness was with Srila Prabhupada constantly. So there's no question his passing was most glorious passing to be with Prabhupada, as he was and as he still is. Thank you.
Thank you. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. So from the time Bhakti Charu Swami was put in this condition, there were classes going on amongst his disciples on Zoom, and for 2 weeks straight, I studied Bhakti Charu Swami's book, 2 times reading it this time, because in Bhakti Charu Swami's book, Ocean of Mercy, he spoke about himself. He didn't speak about his accomplishments, about the service that he did after Prabhupada left. He spoke about how he came to Krishna consciousness and how Srila Prabhupada bestowed his mercy upon him. And I considered that book to be on the same level as Bhagavad Gita concerning the 2 personalities. Of course, Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita, and Bhakti Charu Swami, he gave us this Ocean of Mercy. And I found in that book, the reason I had to read it 2 times very carefully is because he had so many succinct sutras in that book about his realizations and about service to Srila Prabhupada. Now, since meeting Bhakti Charu Swami when he was just a bhakta in Mayapur, he was assigned to help me set up book tables in Mayapur then. From that time, I knew immediately that he was a very special devotee, completely cultured. It's like you get these instant mixes and you just have to add water and then poof, you get it. So that's exactly the type of devotee Bhakti Charu Swami was when he was a bhakta. He was perfect in everything. His mannerisms, his etiquette, the way he spoke to us, the way he did service. I was just astounded that he was a new bhakta. And then right after that, after meeting Prabhupada, I heard that Prabhupada had given him double initiation at that time, and he had become Prabhupada's secretary, Prabhupada's cook, Prabhupada's servant, and I understood why, because of his qualifications, but I wanted to understand this person. So since that time, it was 1976 when he was a bhakta in the Mayapur. Since that time, because 3 months after his first and second initiation on Snan Yatra, he was awarded sannyas. Prabhupada made sure from that time onwards that no women could enter into Prabhupada's house, because now Bhakti Charu Swami was a sannyasi. He didn't want any mixing there, especially in Prabhupada's kitchen. So from hearing, from reading, from seeing, I very carefully studied him all these years, since 1977. Now it's 2020. 43 years I've been studying him. So I gave for the disciples a 1-hour presentation of Bhakti Charu Swami's quotations from his book. We don't have an hour now. I couldn't share it because it's all on screen. But all of his realizations and all of the knowledge he's giving us about how to serve Prabhupada, he's put in his book. If you really want to understand how to become a perfect servant of Srila Prabhupada, you read that book very carefully and take notes. I've taken so many notes. All the secrets he's given us of how to become the perfect servant of Srila Prabhupada. But then while making this presentation, because I was making it for the disciples, the last frame and the very last quotations in Bhakti Charu Swami's book just broke my heart. He said two things. Srila Prabhupada's assurance that although he would someday disappear from our vision, he would always be present. For a while, in order to lead us onto the spiritual path, he had become visible to us. And then he had left our sight to motivate us to move forward toward the spiritual world to find him. So this was Bhakti Charu Swami's, his motivation for continuing in devotional service after Prabhupada left us, to move forward toward the spiritual world to find Srila Prabhupada. And then finally, the last words of his book, sometime in the future, it does not matter when, I will reach my ultimate destination and once again be at the lotus feet of my beloved Srila Prabhupada. So this was the goal of Bhakti Charu Swami. And it's the goal of all of the disciples of their guru, of Srila Prabhupada, of Bhakti Charu Swami's disciples. Once again be at the lotus feet of my beloved Srila Prabhupada. It's very, very difficult to enter into the personal service of Srila Prabhupada. It's the most guarded service in all of ISKCON. And you make a mistake, you're finished. Right? You make enough mistakes, you're finished. Anyone who's had the fortune of serving Srila Prabhupada, particularly here in Vrindavan, it's the only goal in life to again be back in that service of Srila Prabhupada. And it's actually the only meditation. We served at different times. Of course, Bhakti Charu Swami, he did the ultimate, most intimate service for Prabhupada in 1977. But whoever got the opportunity to serve Srila Prabhupada, it's the only thing they want to do. We're not even interested in going back to Godhead. We don't even care who we are, it doesn't matter. All we want is, again, to be at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. That's our meditation. That's our goal. That's what we think of. That, well, whenever I'm going to die, please, just let me serve Prabhupada again, wherever he is. It doesn't matter. So, Bhakti Charu Swami, he had those same goals in life. That let me be again at the lotus feet of my beloved Srila Prabhupada. So we can be assured that Bhakti Charu Swami has gone to serve Prabhupada again, and his disciples, who are so dedicated to his lotus feet because of his incredible qualifications as a pure devotee, as a pure disciple of Srila Prabhupada, if they just stick very tightly to the instructions that he's given. Now we're going through, just as we compare Ocean of Mercy to the Bhagavad Gita of Krishna. So during these days, it's just like the Srimad Bhagavatam, because Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, that's one type of katha. The second type of katha is about Krishna. So from 700 verses, then it expanded into 18,000 verses. And when we read the amazing service that Bhakti Charu Swami did within ISKCON, and his meditation was that now I've done everything that you've asked me to do, Srila